Welcome back to the program, everybody. Or if you are just joining us, welcome inside Hour 2 of the Rod Pedersen Show. Canada's only live morning sports talk shows right here. Breaking news, we're told today, a report that John Ryan has signed with the Saskatchewan Roughriders in free agency. We'll await official confirmation from the football club. I want to get to some viewer questions just before we're joined by Devon Claybrooks, who will be joining us from Calgary. Most recently, the head coach of the BC Lions. Nick Lewis and I want to know what he's up to now. And also, Jordan Eberle of the New York Islanders will be joining us live from Long Island. Ebs 2 helpers last night in the Islanders' OT victory over the Dallas Stars. Can you put the question up from Laura Bennett or the comment, guys, from Zach Collaros? We spent more time on the Bomber quarterbacking than I expected, but it was a good visit. Laura in Winnipeg, regarding Zach, she says, during the parade, Collaros was sitting by himself on his phone, not engaging in the celebration with his teammates. Hopefully he mixes in well with the team this year, at least until he gets injured. Ooh! Ow, Laura! But is that not kind of sing in line with what I'm saying about Zach? He's not a party guy. He's not going to be organizing, pin the tail on the donkey. He's going to be going out and throwing touchdowns. That's Zach.
I don't even know how you seen Zach. My eyes were on Streveler the whole time. Like that well, dude. That dude was a rock star, and just like Ovechkin when he won it, right? You want to see those guys go out there. He had on the shorts with the fur coat with no shirt and the cowboy hat. And I see someone got a tattoo of it.
I know.
That's awesome.
That's very Winnipegish to get a tattoo of Chris Streveler. But that's cool. You've commemorated the 2019 Grey Cup championship. But again, that's the thing, was that having spent a lot of time around him, and I'm with you. I mean, I heard that Zach wasn't even at the parade. Those were the messages I was getting from friends of mine in Winnipeg because they didn't see him. But you're right. Streveler was jumping up and down with a cowboy hat and liquored to the gills and fur coat. And good for him. Zach's not one of those guys.
No, he's not.
And, you know, for anybody to say that he wasn't mixing with his teammates or whatever, who cares? Who delivered when the chips are down? It was Zach. So it's an interesting discussion. And by the way, ahead of Devon Claybrooks, I want to ask you about Streveler. Paul Figler's watching in Red Deer, Alberta today. He of the dubnetwork.ca website, which, by the way, Paul, I'm now reading every day. Thank you. Fresh in my inbox, WHL News. He says, when's the show going to 3 hours? That's not up to me. One of our owners here, Paul, you've met Paul, Nick, right?
I have
met many times.
Yeah.
He would like to go to 3 hours immediately. I don't know how I feel about my 2-hour workday going to a 3-hour workday. I'm not sure if I'm ready for that yet. I kind of like what's going on here right now. Oh, and by the way, Nelson Hakowicz writing us says Riders have made it official. John Ryan staying in the nation. So there you go. Breaking news there. What's your take on Chris Streveler to the Arizona Cardinals? I thought that was a pretty good chat last hour.
Yeah, you know, it's a lot like Taysom Hill probably. But I don't think he's as good an athlete as Taysom. But in the red zone, like Dave said, if you're in the red zone or if you need tough yards on 3rd and 1, 3rd and 3, you can do a lot of different things with Streveler that you can't do with Kyler Murray. But will he be a quarterback that they can put in the game to drop back and make passes? No, he couldn't do it here. He's not going to do it there. But, you know, they were going to try to find a way to utilize him. His size, he's put together very well. And when he gets the ball in his hands, he can make plays. He can make guys miss tackles. He's tough. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him line up at tight end or motion across and do some things and, yeah, just build packages for him because the NFL is going to how can we get it done. It's not just all about talent. It's about how can we get it done. And you see a guy that says we can utilize this. And I think the Saints did a great job with Taysom Hill. You know, he lines up quarterback, receiver, running back. He lines up all over the place, and he makes plays.
That's what I see. I wouldn't be surprised to see him on special teams either, depending on how the Cardinals do things. But I don't think lining him up on 1st and goal from the 8 and smashing him in like a demolition car is the way they're going to do it. I think it's going to be a little more strategic than that. But It's an interesting chat as about why Streveler gets the deal and not any other CFL quarterback, which furthermore is why while we await Javon Claybrooks joining us, your take on Dave Naylor's assertion last hour that the NFL does not sign the CFL's best players. I think we've long known that, but Dave put it out there. Maybe you can explain that philosophy.
Well, I don't think it's just they don't sign the best players. I think that a lot of the best players stay. You know, I know Joffrey had an offer to go down. He stayed in Calgary. I know G. Roy's had some offers to go down. He stayed. And I know I had offers early in my career to go down, and I stayed. So it's not always just that guys don't get the opportunity. It's just maybe the opportunity doesn't look right. Like, why would I go down and be a third or fourth guy when I can be the number one guy here or do really well? And most people make it about money. Life is not all about money. It's about happiness and enjoying what you do. So I know a lot of guys in the NFL that don't like it. They love the money, but they don't like it. And there's guys that wish they could come up here and just play up here. And more guys than not say, if the CFL paid more money, I would rather play there than the NFL.
Oh, of course. And I can tell you this. I think you're starting to realize that the more time you spend around here, broadcasters, coaches, therapists, although we all do different things within the game, it's the same for all of us. Because I know a lot of NHL and NFL broadcasters that hate their lives.
Yeah.
But it is the money, in a lot of ways the lifestyle. But I'm getting a lot of questions from people now What are your goals? What are your goals? Where do you see yourself? And I say, I just want to be happy. And they look at you like you're speaking another language. What do you mean? I just want to be happy because I hadn't been happy for a long time. I'm real happy here. So you get it.
I get it.
You totally get it.
I get it. You know, and I look at, like Canadians and I'm like, look, I chose you. Right? Mm-hmm. It's like there's a lot of guys that don't have to. There's guys that come up here for a year or two or maybe longer. It's the same way, but I think it works in both ways. I think there's a lot of great NFL players that came up here. Ricky Williams, Andre Rison. There's a lot of guys that come up here.
Long list.
And they don't pan out. And, I mean, Ricky Williams went back down and had a 1,500-yard rushing season the year after he left the CFL. So just because there's a difference, it doesn't mean that you're better if you play there. They just have better marketing and more people, and they get paid more.
Speaking of marketing, by the way, it's another thing, the Naylor visit. I jotted down a lot of notes there. He mentioned the one-year contracts and how the Argo marketing department gave out all these bobbleheads for Darrell Walker last year, and now he could be gone after 1 year. The first thing that popped into my head was, why are you doing current player bobbleheads? Do classics.
Yep.
Why do we have to do the thinking for everybody? Just like jerseys, people say all the time, I want to buy a jersey. What jersey should I buy? Buy Lancaster. Buy Elgard. They're never going out of style. Right?
Or just put Velcro in the back and just have replaceable nameplates.
You could do that, but who wants to do that?
Yeah. But they have to do something to entice players to stay in the same spot for longer than a year. I think it's bad for the game, and I think it's bad for the fans to constantly support this game when everything changes. Right? Part of the fan experience is to go out and talk trash to the opposing team. It's hard to do that when every week you don't know if that guy's going to be on your team the next year or the next week. So I would like to see players stay on the same team more.
Hey, I'm not saying I like it. I'm saying it's the way that it is.
It is.
So it's not changing. It's not going back just so they can sell jerseys. I totally get what you're saying. But if they handed out 5,000 Darrell Walker Argo bobbleheads last year and now he's gone, that's the Argo's fault, not Darrell Walker's fault. That's kind of what I'm saying there. And just with this sports marketing, that's why we talk about it every single day. I remember in the early 2000s, because your first year in the league was 2004, right?
Yes.
Riders were just starting to come up then.
Yeah.
Early 2000s, Riders were awful. Hadn't made the playoffs for years. My first season with the club was 99. And we would all sit around together because it was a small staff. And we'd sit around and talk about marketing. And we're like, man, we're bad. We can't market these players, unfortunately. So how are we going to market this team? It's where Canada's team came from. It's better in the stands came from. And I got to say that Phoenix Group was a part of that too. Gainer on merchandise for kids because we couldn't market the team. I'm just talking about getting creative. And when it comes to bobbleheads, classic is the way to go. Sean in Saskatoon writes, he says, I got my Durant Classic jersey, never going out of style. I've also got a 2013 Dressler jersey. You know, I'm going to Vegas next week with my brother. Well, here's one. Dougal? Do you know this guy? Dougal Cameron? See on the left?
Yeah.
82 Lewis will always be in fashion in Calgary.
Awesome.
Do they retire numbers in Calgary? Do they have retired numbers?
They have 5.
Who are they? Can you remember?
Alan Pitts.
Sponge?
I'm not sure if Sponge is.
Flutie?
No, Sponge isn't because Keon was 25.
Okay. Flutie?
I'm not sure Flutie is. I think Garcia is.
Let me think. Herm Harrison. Wayne Harris.
Yeah, Wayne. Herm. There's 5 of them.
Okay. Sorry to put you on a spot like that.
Know.
I'm sure I couldn't name all the rider ones.
It's been a while since I've been in the locker room. It was always up there, and
that's what I'm saying.
I wore 18 in college, and that's the number I wanted when I got to the Stamps. And since it was already retired,
82 seemed to fit.
Yeah, I remember walking into the to Sports Chek, and I seen an 82 jersey, and I told him, I said, you need to take these Donnie Blair jerseys down. There's a new 82 in town.
I could see you saying that.
And they started laughing and everything, and I said, all right, watch. They were down about 2 weeks later.
Ryan Kowalik writes in, he says, I got my Lancaster jersey with me in Switzerland. See? They travel well. Go retro, and you will never regret it. And I kind of felt guilty. People bugged me that I haven't had an NHL team the last 4 or 5 years. But then I looked back and said, it's not my fault. I'm being real. My dad worked for Dallas for 26 years. It was really easy to cheer for the Stars. And then he retired. I wasn't going to cheer for them anymore. And then my friend bought the Arizona Coyotes. So for 3 years, I was going on there. And it was nice being a Coyote fan. But I couldn't talk with any other Coyotes fans up here. There are none. Spent a year cheering for Vegas. And then I fell back in with the Oilers. But the nice thing is I got jerseys of all these teams. So when I go to Vegas next week, I will be wearing my Golden Knights jersey. Nelson writes in, he says, the Stamps actually have 7 retired numbers.
Let's make it 8.
82 needs to be in there. From Mick Panko, he says, I have a DeFrance number 74. That is timeless. Do you see what I'm saying? There's this whole 1-year contract thing in the CFL. People are acting like it's only the CFL. Doesn't every team, how many times you hear a guy sign a 1-year deal? You hear it a lot. Baseball, NHL. Don't sit around and mope that you can't market because the players don't stick around long enough. Give me a break. And put a little more work into it.
It's so funny because the NFL, guys hate the franchise tag, which is a 1-year deal, but you have to be, what is the average of the top 3 contracts of that season.
Poor babies.
So they make so much money in 1 year, but they hate the franchise tag. And the CFL guys want to sign 1-year deals so they have the freedom to move and make more money as it goes.
Can you imagine if the CFL had some version of that? Like franchise tag? Well, you'd have to make salaries public for one, so I guess that would never happen in the CFL.
Yeah.
But it is quite fascinating, particularly with what Zach Collaros got from the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, close to $500,000. I say good for Zach, and you said good for Dan Vertlieb, the agent. Good for both of them.
Yeah.
Hope they go out and have a stake on that. Paul Figler in Red Deer watching. He says those 7 retired numbers for the Calgary Stampeders, Hood, Burden, McLaughlin, Pitts, Frazani, Harris, and Laird. Is that 7? That's 4. That's 7. Herm Harrison is not retired.
Yeah, Herm's not.
Thank you, Paul. That surprises me. Surprises me a lot. What I'm really excited about is I had Mark McLaughlin and Nick Lewis in these chairs together. But you are the Stamps all-time leading receiver.
No.
Are you not?
Alan Pitts still is the all-time leading receiver in Stamps.
Yardage and receptions?
I have more receptions overall, but not with the Stamps.
Not with Stamps. Okay.
So Tom Frazani was number 2, actually, and I passed him in both. So now he's number 3.
The founder of Sport Chek.
Yes, one of them. Yeah.
Chris Cooper in Southern Ontario watching. He says, I'm excited to see what Jeremy O'Day does in free agency with a couple of key positions, i.e. linebacker and defensive line. Larry Dean and Dylan Wynn would sure look good in green and white. I'm not following it as closely as many are. Just what I read, I'm certainly not sending out text messages or poking my nose around where it doesn't belong. But if they've got to trim Micah Johnson's contract, do they not? They can't have him back at well, he was on a one-year deal as it was, but they can't pay him $250,000 again, can they?
But I think that's the thing. It's like Darrell Walker in Toronto making $275 or whatever it was. Those guys go in, and then if you don't play up to that standard, now you're looking to take a pay cut, and you're like, if I'm taking a pay cut, I'm going to where I want to go. And I think
and you can't blame him.
And I think the reason Micah came here was because of the money.
Right.
So if you're coming to a place for the money and then the money's no longer there, then you're not going to be at the place.
Well, but it was only a one-year deal. This was a risk that he took.
Yes, it is. And they all take risks. You always want to bet on yourself, but they all take risk, and he took a risk, and it just didn't work out. But, I mean, he did get doubled and triple-teamed a lot, and it did help the rest of the D-line a lot. And D-line's different because it's not all about stats. When you're taking double teams and you're giving Charleston and AC and Zach Evans, you give them all these two-way goes, and you're just freeing up space for them, and then you're stopping the run inside. That's huge.
Well, this is why I have so much faith in Jeremy O'Day as a general manager. Is he'll know by watching the film. You would hope most general managers would know that, but he's going to know exactly what Micah Johnson's worth for 2020. Maybe it's not as much as he was worth in 2019.
Yep.
We're going to take a break, and we're still awaiting Devone Claybrooks. We know for a fact Jordan Eberle will be with us from Long Island. It's the Rod Pedersen Show on Facebook Live. Episode 171 of Canada's only live morning sports talk show continues after this break. And listen live at rodpeterson.com.
You're watching Rod Pedersen On Demand. For more of the Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpeterson.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.